Hey guys, Micah here from the Russell School of Ministry. I want to talk to you today about Getmo. Getmo. Now, if I know you're thinking, Getmo, is that the prison in Guantanamo Bay? No, that's Getmo. Getmo is something different. Getmo is it's an acronym for good enough to move on. All right, good enough to move on. Good enough to move on. I don't know if you're like me, but I am frequently perfectionistic. Like, I want things to be good, even things like this video. How many times do you think I've reshot this video? I want it to be good. I'll tell you how many times at the end. I want it to be good, and I'll see it, and I think, no, that's not quite right. Let's do it again. Or I start to write a paper, and I think, oh, that's not quite right. Or I start to work on an email, and I just keep tweaking it. And so what happens is you produce high-quality output. That's really good. But you take so long to do it that you're not actually very productive. Now, this tool I learned from, what's his name, Life Church guy, Craig Groeschel. And I would have just linked to his video of it, but I couldn't find a good video of it, so I made my own. But Craig Groeschel said a couple years ago, he said, look, let's say you're cleaning the house, right? I don't think he said cleaning the house, but this is what I use with my kids. I said, okay, you're cleaning the house. The first 10 minutes of cleaning that you do, you get a ton of success on that, right? And the next 10 minutes, you still get a lot. But as time goes on, it starts to level out, right? And so most things are like this. Most things have a productivity curve that looks kind of like this, where I'm working on that presentation. The first hour that I'm working on that presentation, man, I get a ton of stuff done. It's like, I'm going to put a little, there's my first hour. There we go. There's hour one. And I say, okay, well, hour two, the first hour I get all this done. The next hour I only get this much done. The third hour working on that presentation, I only get this much done, right? Law of diminished returns. And so Getmo is all about saying, what is the point at which I'm getting the most bang for my buck? How do I get to here and move on? Now, I'm not saying, and those of you that have like a high passion for excellence and stuff like that, you're like, no, it takes what it takes. And man, we want to get up here. We want to, be up in this space. And I get that. And for some things, that has to be that way, right? Like, I don't want a heart surgeon who's like, good enough, right? But for a lot of the things that we do, especially in a church, we don't measure the opportunity cost, right? And so I could give you this with, that takes, I could preach a sermon that takes me, let's say 12 hours. This is a 12-hour sermon. This gets me to here. I could also do a 50-hour version of that sermon, right? That's better. But how much better is it, right? Is it enough better to make up for the fact that I didn't do anything else? And the answer is maybe, maybe not, right? And so part of managing your time well is figuring out when something is good enough to move on. Not perfect, not done, not forever, not the best it can possibly be, right? Oh, I want this to be the best it can possibly be. Do you? Because you could make it better, but you're going to have to give up a bunch of other things. And are you willing to give those up? If you're only doing one thing in a week or a month or a year, then maybe that's what you do, right? But for somebody who's got to balance a lot of different things, if you've got a lot of plates in the air already, then part of your, winning with productivity is figuring out when is it good enough to move on. Probably not here. That's probably cutting too quick, but probably over here is too late. So where in this are we drawing I'm sorry, I should have said, but if this is quality and this is time, you have to figure out and have a conversation. Okay, it's not done. Yes, there's 15 more things that we could do. But I think it's good enough to move on. And if we can move on, hey, maybe we come back to this and we do, another X amount of time with it in the future. But for now, this is good enough to move on. If you can figure that out, if you can get into the habit of saying, yep, okay, I still see some things that we could do, but for now, that's good enough that we can go on and fix some other thing, then what you'll find is that you'll fix a lot of things instead of just one. All right? So this is it. Getmo. Learn how to say when something's good enough to move on.